Welcome to this week's episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters, the podcast where we explore the cinematic legacy of the classic monsters. I'm John Campbell. With me, as always, Brendan Jones.
Hello there, John. Hello, listeners.
Still waiting.
They didn't answer.
Yeah, still waiting. Rude, snubbed, man.
Like, come on, man. A little would be nice. A little feedback, but that's okay. How are you today? Good.
I'm doing all right. Aside from the fact that I just finished watching Frankenstein Created Woman.
Oof. Can I just say that this movie should the title should be Guano because it's batshit. This movie is insane. It is so weird.
I will say this is 1967's Frankenstein Created Woman. It is not good, but it is entertaining in its not goodness. So that is that. Yeah. I'll hold that over some of these. We were just talking beforehand. Definitely an improvement from the previous Frankenstein movie in terms of enjoyment, because that one was just boring for the most part.
Yeah. This one is so nuts, and therefore, again, pieces of this fell in where I remembered from what I had seen as a kid.
Yeah.
Where I was like, right, yes.
This is
me as an adult taking the whole thing in and just going, this thing is its own beast. And we'll hold off on recommendations, but I was just sitting there going, I want to talk to Anthony Hines so bad because I'm just like, what?
Yeah, this doesn't suffer from the problems of other Anthony Hines scripts, which we've talked about. This is a whole other mess of craziness that he's written here.
Yeah, it is.
This movie is seriously bonkersville, and countless times watching it, I was just like, what?
And as we were also saying off mic, it's again another misleading title. Frankenstein does not, in fact, create woman in this.
Frankenstein doesn't create anyone in this movie.
No.
There's no. It's not really a Frankenstein movie.
We knew that past the second in the series, none of these will connect anymore. Continuity's gone.
Which is such a weird decision.
It is. And I was just stunned in this one. When people are going, so you're Baron Frankenstein, right? He's like, yep. What do you do? And I'm just like going, oh, right. In this particular movie, there is no legend hanging over him. There is no tales of any. In fact, this may be the first thing he ever does.
It seems
no
that such
previous experiments or anything. So you're like, what world are we in now?
Why keep casting the same guy? I mean, other than Cushing's amazing, obviously, but like, what's the point of having
the best thing in this again?
Unquestionably, he crushes every line they give him.
I gotta say, the weird thing is, now that they're all their own movie, he has now got to play the same character. He's gotten to play the same character in multiple different ways. Like, I do miss sociopathic, brilliant, pretty fucking evil
those
Baron
first two Frankenstein movies. Oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah. The third one where he's just kind of resigned and somewhat of a meek Baron Frankenstein. I'm like, well, that's a different one. And in this one, he's not con artist. He's not a con artist. And in fact, he is, of course, very intellectually superior. But the whole thing of him not having any money and just like going, oh, I don't know. So, you pay for it, okay? And I was like, Grifter Frankenstein. I was like, what is this?
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. You know?
Yeah, he played it almost exactly like Paul Dooley as Wimpy in Robert Altman's. Very strange when the Harry Nilsson music kicks in.
Yeah,
I would gladly pay you Tuesday for a spare part of a dead body today, which doesn't come into it at all anyway.
I wish it did, though. I mean, honestly, this movie's so fucking crazy that it wouldn't have felt out of place if they did all start singing at some point.
If it suddenly became a musical number. We'll have to talk about the trio of bad guys in this who, speaking of
the characters, I only refer to in my notes as the fancy boys.
Fancy boys. Or I kept being reminded of the upper class Twit of the Year sketch from Monty Python.
Yes. My God, absolutely. That's what this is. Those guys as villains in a horror movie.
Especially as the lead one, I think Anton is his name, looks a lot like Graham Chapman. I was like, oh,
he does look a lot. And one of the other ones, the final one, Carl, gave me a little bit of a Paul Rubens vibe.
Sure, I could see that too. Yeah.
There's a couple shots of him from the right angle. I'm like, that's full on Pee Wee Herman right there.
He also looked like one of the Lonely Island guys. One of the ones that's not.
Yorm Tacone is, I believe, who you're thinking.
That's him.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow, this is great. I'm not sure I should be making these, connections.
This movie would have been better if somehow the 3 Lonely Island guys played these characters. That I would have loved.
This movie.
These guys, though, are going for it in this film.
I think kind of everybody is, and we get our buddy Thorley back, but we'll talk about that.
Yeah, well, we'll talk. There's a lot of people working for the first time in this movie too.
Yep.
Which and I do have. This is another movie I have from Shout Factory in a collector's edition, so I was able to watch some. I will say the behind the scenes on this one,
did they do a documentary on this?
They have a few scattered interviews. They don't have an actual complete documentary, and it's clear who's left alive to talk. I'll say that because it's not who you have an interview with the film loader and the location manager for this movie. Two guys.
The lead actress is still alive, but she doesn't do interviews.
And they talk to the guy who plays Hans. There's an interview with him, and he's the one going, I was just out of drama school, and I didn't know what I was doing.
I can tell. Didn't like.
There's a great story he tells about. He's like, they asked me to read the script, and they said, what do you think of the character? And I had just come out of drama school, so I'd done all this work and fleshed out all this history and wrote all this. And he said, Terrence Fisher just looked at him and said, I don't think we intended any of that, but you have the job. You thought about this much more than we do, so I guess. The best part is the interview with the 2 crewmen. They're very, very old, and they don't talk about the movie at all. They just talk about how good it used to be to work on shoots back in the day. You worked from 8:30 to 5:30 every day, and if the weather was bad, they let you go home at 4.
And of course, there was tea. High tea at 2, or everything shut down at 2.
And sometimes they'd ask us to work an hour longer, but we'd get a dinner break, so it was okay. It's that kind of stuff. It's delightful.
Should we circle back around to the film in question, maybe?
And everybody just keeps saying, Terrence Fisher, he was a nice fella. So that's good to hear. Apparently people like Terrence Fisher.
He took it totally seriously and was... like a lot of these people, a complete gentleman.
And the guy who played Hans did say, he was nice. Sometimes if you thought you didn't do a good enough job, he'd let you do another take. Which implies to me he was not doing many takes anyway.
I think that's probably with not a lack of craft, but an eye on that budget.
Well, because one of the things that I think the film loader guy says, and of course back in those days, we didn't do all this coverage they do today, shooting from every angle, close-ups, medium shots. We'd get 2 angles and be out of there,
Well, I have a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff on this one. And a deviation from something we've done before, because we're going to have plenty of time to talk about exploits in the life of Peter Cushing.
Indeed.
With more film. But there's an interesting and sad side story of one of the cast members of this. So that's who we'll be talking about in more detail. But to launch off, in 1958, as Hammer had wrapped The Revenge of Frankenstein, their second outing with Mary Shelley's classic creation, the wheels were already turning in producer-screenwriter Anthony Hines' mind for a third sequel. And at the same time, French filmmaker Roger Vadim had an international hit with his erotic Brigitte Bardot vehicle and God Created Woman. Hines immediately knew that his next sequel would have to be called Frankenstein Created Woman. Title secured. Now he just needed a plot.
I mean, it's a great title.
It is a great title, and it's clever. He would actually have plenty of time to come up with a plot because this pitch would not be the third in the series. That would be also Hines scripted, The Evil Frankenstein, which we've already covered here. So after a long gestation, it was The Evil of Boredom. That's an evil in and of itself. After a long gestation, the fourth film in the series, once again starring the always amazing Peter Cushing, and a Playboy playmate and one-off Star Trek actress named Susan Dinberg, whose
yes.
entire performance was dubbed by another actress because her normal Austrian accent was deemed too thick.
Yeah. I was going to say, you know I wanted to talk about that Star Trek appearance, and we will.
Oh, yes, and it's one of my favorite episodes.
One of the best, yeah.
Went before the cameras in 1966, this film did, long after anybody would have been amused by the cheeky parody title. And God Created Woman, I think, at this point, it was, 6 years later, they're like, what? Oh, right. Yeah, I get it.
I vaguely
Frankenstein
remember that
Created
movie.
Woman.
And then our friend in the South goes, I remember it.
Yeah, that was one of my favorites. Hey, you still have that print? Can you thread that up? Everyone's gone. Just me and you. Just run it.
Roll it again, Louie.
And when Brigitte shows up, just slow it down.
Yeah, slow it way down.
Though this film was the first in the series to actually take a loss in worldwide box office, it does have its fans and supporters, including Martin Scorsese.
Oh, my God. I know he's a big Hammer fan. I've heard him talk about Hammer movies.
He picked this movie as part of a 1987 National Film Theater season of his favorite films, saying about it, quote, "If I single this one out, it's because here they actually isolate the soul. The implied metaphysics are close to something sublime," unquote.
Okay, and I'm sorry, but the Marvel movies are dumb, Marty?
Sure thing, Marty. Also, I think you got a little something there on your nose.
He did say, like, metaphysics. Some sublime,
1987 is all I'm saying. Oof, okay. Speaking of drugs...
He doesn't remember much of the 80s, let's be honest.
As I was saying, we're deviating from the factoids from the life of Mr. Cushing.
Yes.
Because it's time for our PSA section of the show. I submit the sad tale of our Miss Dinberg, whose very brief film and TV career, which spanned just 2 years. Like, she showed up out of nowhere in 66. She did stuff, and then by 68, she's gone.
I noticed this from when I went to look at her IMDb here.
Her career, and that included her Playboy Playmate thing, spanned just 2 years and included behind-the-scenes liaisons with Stuart Whitman, Sammy Davis Jr., Richard Pryor, Charles Bronson, Sidney Poitier, Jim Brown, and Roman Polanski.
Wow.
2 years. 2 years.
She lived fast,
career,
man. She's a fast woman.
A little too damn fast. Her career petered out due to fast living and heaps of LSD. Yeah. She became unreliable, even on this film. And Frankenstein Created Woman, everyone liked working with her, but she was like, is she coming in today?
Oh, Robert Morris, who plays Han, said she was a lovely girl.
She became unreliable, and due to this, lost out on a role she had landed in the cult 1968 film The Girl on a Motorcycle with Alain Delon.
Oh, I love Alain Delon.
I know you do. Alain Delon!
Alain Delon. Not just because I love saying his name.
I know. No, he's actually great. As filming was set to commence, she OD'd and was checked into a psychiatric clinic where she received electroshock therapy. Her part in the film went to Marianne Faithfull. Eventually, her family collected her from the asylum and took her back to Austria, where she faded from public life.
Anytime the use of the word collected. That one's ours.
Yeah, it's like, oh, no, the other one. Yeah, the blonde here.
Yeah,
right.
That's her.
She faded to the extent that rumors circulated of her having committed suicide. Luckily, that is not the case. That rumor did persist for years, but she is actually still with us today.
I noticed that.
The thing that we wrap up saying is, don't do drugs, kids.
Yeah.
Don't do drugs.
The more you
know.
more you
know. Yeah. The more you know. She is lovely, and she's
a stunning woman. There's no question about it. She's got a striking presence. Even when she's got the scar makeup on, she's still very striking.
A lot of people refer to her as a Kim Novak lookalike, and it is true. They have a similar, like, the jawline.
I see it, yeah.
Sort of very Nordic, well, Austrian in her case, look. She's attractive, and she is in Mudd's Women, the episode of Star Trek. One of the Harry Mudd episodes.
Harcourt Fenton Mudd.
Harcourt, Fenton Mudd.
Yeah.
And so those are
She's in the better of the two.
That's true.
She's not one of the android women. These are the women that have been
right. They have the drug that makes them appear,
even though they're quite hideous, monstrous looking women. Yeah.
Yes, they're not androids.
No, because that's when we get to iMud.
That's right, iMud. Oh my god, it's all coming back.
Yeah, you're talking to the wrong guy if you don't want to get deep on Star Trek. Because I'll tell you about that was actually season 2 of.
If you remember, and
distinctly with Captain Kirk. Yeah,
she is lovely in that. And does she have dialogue?
Yes, I believe she is the one that has dialogue. Because there is one. I think she's the main girl in it who takes a liking to, and tries to seduce the there's
Captain a blonde, Kirk. A brunette, and a redhead.
And she
I
is
always thought the brunette was really, really hot. Actually,
the one who's in. I love the promotional photos. If you go to the IMDb for Mudd's Women, these promotional photos of Shatner and Nimoy with these women,
of course,
is pretty funny. Because Shatner's all over them, and Nimoy looks like he wants to be anywhere else.
Though he is saying, by the way, I do take photographs of women if you wanted to come back to my studio.
There's this one amazing photo where they're on the transporter set, and Shatner's got his one arm around two of the women, so he's got an arm around each woman. Yeah. And then there's another woman, the dark-haired woman has her hand on Nimoy's shoulder, and he's just looking off into the middle distance, Nimoy. And Shatner, meanwhile, is cozying up to these two ladies. Yeah.
I think it's actually the taller blonde woman is the one that actually has dialogue, is the main one.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah, it's two blondes and a brunette, not a
right. That's right. That's right.
Yes, it is that one.
Susan Denberg, I think, because of the accent. I remember, obviously, they would constantly in that episode, they just cut to these glamour shots of them where they just do the eyes and they have the soft focus photography. But I don't think they really say anything except for the main one there.
Because she's the one that gets the scenes with Kirk where she's like trying to seduce him and stuff like that.
Yeah, and Girl on a Motorcycle, which I have seen, that character is supposed to be this mysterious woman on a motorcycle who is topless, riding a motorcycle at various points, and is more like this mystical figure and doesn't have a lot of dialogue either. And I kept thinking, how long was Susan Denberg's career really going to go? You know, I mean, how many?
If they didn't have
Austrian
her talk in anything, yeah.
Right. But anyway,
it's that girl who never talks. I don't know. Maybe as long as she took the top off, people wouldn't mind.
I agree that she's striking, and she does. Again, just through expression, and even though she's dubbed over, she does a decent job in this, I guess.
Sure.
Because weirdly, her and Hans are the main character of this movie, regardless of what the title is.
Frankenstein makes some guest appearances.
He sure does.
It might as well said special guest star Peter Cushing as Frankenstein.
Oh goodness.
Let's talk about this poster.
I know where you're going.
We got to talk about this poster, which, still a bunch of
text,
blank white space and text. Jesus.
Maybe this was the thing going into the 60s.
I guess. I mean, right from the bat, from flesh and innocence. ... Yeah, Frankenstein has created the ultimate evil, the ultimate in evil.
True. That's not true.
Not at all.
That's not true.
A beautiful woman with the soul of the devil. Also not
true.
Even remotely true.
Completely not even
this true. Poster's nothing but lies.
I will say I kind of like the art. It's it reminds me of like Creepy or Eerie, one of those black and white comics magazines.
It does.
So you've got, it's a collage-y kind of thing where you have, I think it's framed pretty well because you've got on the left-hand side something we don't see in the movie at all, but you've got one of the typical like tubes with a body in it.
We don't see much of what's on this poster in this movie, actually.
That's very true. So this is like a glass tube with a woman in it with the steel bands covering the naughty bits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's in yellowish green.
Yeah.
And on the right-hand side, you see possibly the same woman wearing a bandage bikini, which we don't see in the movie, hauling back with a cleaver.
I know. I want to see this movie. This is the movie I want to see.
This is implied in a scene, but we don't really get,
But
this
look at
kind
this
of thing.
wild-eyed woman with two hands on the cleaver, hefting it above her head, about to slice this dude's head off.
Yeah,
and this would have got me in the door. This poster would have gotten me in the theater.
It would have definitely me as well. But between those two,
I will say the most appropriate thing on this poster, which is Peter Cushing poking his head and going, "I'm in this too.
Yes,
I'm also in this movie."
Hello.
Yeah.
The man at the door said I could. They're taking pictures for the movie right now.
Can I just get in here between these two cheesecake shots? Just legendary Peter Cushing here.
And then beneath him is a castle.
Yeah. Not in the movie. There's no castle in this movie.
There's no castle in this movie. And then we have a line of angry villagers.
Yeah. Of which there are like 6 angry villagers at one part of the movie, and they're not really that angry.
I will say this movie, grand overall thing, is one of the first times I've really seen it's a handsome looking Hammer film.
Mm-hmm.
But it really felt at this point like this is where some of their budget was showing. It's not just like we're not pretending we're in Egypt. That was a problem I had with that mummy movie. But this really felt like there are only 8 people in this village.
Yes.
This one has almost no, except for one scene of a public execution. There are almost no crowd scenes. There's really 2 women in this movie. 2 women, one of whom doesn't really have any dialogue. She's just in a coach with the main girl at one point, and I'm like, what town is this? So it really felt like they were skimping. It's like 3 sets and 8 people.
Yes, it really does have that feeling to it. The other thing I want to talk about, which we don't normally, but just because it's such a big part of the marketing of this movie, are these publicity photos of Cushing with Susan Denberg, who's wearing this kind of bandaged bikini that's in the poster that we talked about, that clearly was used to sell this movie.
Yeah, it's part of the iconography of this movie, even if that doesn't actually appear.
It's the first thing I think of when I hear the title of this movie is that image of Cushing with this woman in this kind of white bandaged bikini.
Right. Now, it is possible, I suppose, that it might have actually been a cut scene. But yeah, it's so strange how it is in publicity shots. Like she's stretched out on the table, or there are also clearly publicity shots of him holding her.
Yeah.
So which I'm sure that's probably like, all right, take the picture. My back is killing me.
Yeah. I know you're a very fit gal, but I'm an older gentleman. All right. This is can I put this blonde lady down now?
The whole shot of him, like the heroic shot of him holding her in front of that weird rock thing.
One of the trippiest parts of this movie, man. That scene.
Oh my god. And you can just hear his brittle British bones creaking.
She actually might weigh more than him in this, because he's always just a gaunt, skinny little dude, Yes. And he's just like, please, just take the photo already. But once again, I want to see this movie where he's trying to rescue this creation of his from something, and he's gallantly being heroic, or Frankenstein's fallen in love with his creature, or something.
There are many ways this movie could have gone with the same basic plot that could have been more interesting, including when we get to it. I mean, just the general concept of what Frankenstein does. I agree with Martin Scorsese. It's like, well, that's interesting. It's not what you expect to see from a Frankenstein film.
It's also completely insane and utter nonsense.
It's completely insane, and it's all shoved to the last 15 minutes, and you're like, you could have, or 20 minutes. It's like you could have done some really interesting things with a man's soul reawakening in a female body. That doesn't happen here at all. The whole concept of who am I? I don't know who I am. And you're like, oh, okay,
and he's
great.
Like, don't tell her. Don't. And
you're like, okay, so we're gonna dance around the interesting gender questions.
And then even when it comes to, he's like, I have to tell you who you are. She's like, I know.
Yeah, well, also at that point, it's just, you know, it's like, okay, we're gonna dance around the interesting gender questions. And then even when it comes to, he's like, I have to tell you who you are. She's like, I know. Yeah, well, also at that point, it's just, her taking commands from the other voice in her head, or literally coming from a severed head.
Yeah.
Spoilers. We'll talk about that.
That also is like, what? Why do we need any of that? It's just a whole thing about this. Ugh. But can we just talk about the fact the scientific achievement that Frankenstein has proven the human soul exists and is like a quantifiable thing.
Is a capturable thing.
Yeah, it's there. It's a thing. We see a soul outside of a body in this movie. Anyway, I got to talk about these taglines real quick before we dive into the movie. You do. They are mostly rejiggerings of the words in that poster we talked about, because God knows all the words are in that poster. So we just have things like the ultimate in evil.
It's not true.
A beautiful woman with the soul of the devil.
No.
From flesh and innocence, Frankenstein has created the ultimate in evil and desire.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now Frankenstein. What was that?
I was just saying that this is all just it is the same words. They just sort of tossed them up in the air and wrote them down in a different way. It's the exact same lines over and over and over.
It is. My favorite one, though, is the last one. Now Frankenstein has created a beautiful woman with the soul of the devil, which I like to read more as, now Frankenstein has created a beautiful woman with the soul of, like, oh, what's he up to now?
Oh, geez, that guy. It's always something with him.
Yeah.
Now he's created a dog with the soul of a cat. I don't know. What the hell is that guy up to?
You know what? That was the step too far for me with him, was the dog with the soul of a cat. That's playing God.
He's created a monkey with with the soul of the British Prime Minister. It's crazy what this guy does.
I think we were one Frankenstein Hammer movie away from that being the plot, honestly.
Probably.
They were running out of fume. You know,
Frankenstein and the PM from hell. Can't wait.
You can't throw your feces at the ambassador from Germany. I actually kind of want to see this movie where it's a monkey prime minister and Peter Cushing going like, no, no, no. What? He's not a monkey. It's a lot of shenanigans where he's trying to make it seem like he's not a monkey.
No, Prime Minister Bongo.
Oh, what have I gotten myself into? Says both Peter Cushing and the character.
Holy shit.
So it's come to this. A monkey.
I remember being on the set and Mr. Cushing was, between takes, constantly on the phone with his manager. I've never heard such blue language. It was amazing. He gave him a real cussing out.
I can't imagine. I would love to have seen an irate Peter Cushing on the phone with it. They made a fucking monkey movie?
I said yes to the dumb little space movie. Why am I doing this thing with a monkey?
I heard that movie did quite well. All right, here we go. We start the movie. We open up with the shot of a guillotine, something we've seen before in these Frankenstein movies, which for half a second made me go, geez, are we going back to the previous continuity, the first two movies now? No.
I was almost open, but we didn't.
No. We just have a guy being taken to the guillotine. And
okay, can I just say, the man being taken to the guillotine is really drunk.
Very drunk.
And very drunk. And so the very first line of the movie is unintelligible. The guy's accent is very thick, and he's doing drunk on top of it. So it's hilarious. He's very dramatic shot of a guillotine, and then you cut to a guy, and the first line of the movie is, it's just, I was like, wait, what? Well, I'm going to have to back up. The first line of the movie is,
even the subtitles just say inaudible.
Inaudible.
What? Huh?
So it's a criminal being taken to get his head chopped. What I thought was weird is, any kind of public execution, would it be happening sort of at this late hour in the afternoon and with no audience? Because at that point, even the later, when we see another execution, there's a crowd. This guy's just being dragged out there, and they're like, well, where's the priest?
Yeah. What is no we'll cut his head off around 4.
Don't let everyone know.
Yeah.
We don't want a big crowd.
We don't want to make a thing of this.
So
I mean, the answer is they're not getting extras for this movie for even half a second.
No. I again, I think it's budget.
Yeah, I do love this drunk guy just telling everybody off before they cut his head off, though.
I mean, he's basically going, "Oh, any time's fine by me." And then the priest who was late shows up, was like dreadfully sorry, and he's like going, "That's all right. I got all the time in the world.
Yeah. We can move it to tomorrow if that's better for you."
So he's kind of a chuckly, happy-go-lucky guy who's ready to get his head chopped off. Goes up on the gallows until...
Yeah, he sees a boy in the distance, which we'll come to find is his son, Hans. And he's like, Hans, no!
I would say it's kind of, I think it's fairly effective, is that he's all happy-go-lucky until he sees his son, and he is... in the stocks, but he's like going, don't let him see. That's terrible. And the priest tries to shoo the kid off, and then they go ahead and chop the head, but Hans did see it.
He did. No boy should have to see his father with his head off.
Oh boy. And then they raise that blade. It's got all the blood on it.
Yep. That classic hammer blood as it goes up, and then we get a transition to the now rusted guillotine, and adult Hans, which thankfully he's wearing the exact same outfit as an adult, so we can know it's him.
I nearly died. Because, okay, yes, the transition through the ages, I think it's done well enough to show the weathered and rusted guillotine.
That was a good
cut. All we need. But then suddenly Hans shows up as a guy in his early 20s wearing the same exact costume.
As if showing this guy looking at the guillotine and then having somebody go, Hans, wouldn't have been enough. Instead, they're like, no, we need to put this. He's like, I love this outfit. Can I get it in a bigger size? I found my look young.
Could you let it out again? I've gotten even bigger. Hans is now a strapping young lad.
Yes,
and he's on his way to his job.
This is the film debut of Robert Morris, fresh out of acting school, and
he seems it. He felt very much to me like a stage actor or a musical theater actor in this, and I kept thinking, oh, also the fact that if he's really been kind of an orphan for like a decade or more, he just looks freshly scrubbed, even in this dumb outfit of his. It's like, this, you guys could have done a little better job of selling me poor Hans, but still, he's good enough. It just seems he's a little broad. It's like, are you playing to the back of the house there, Hans?
This is the first of like 4 movies he was ever in, to be fair. Okay. He does a lot of TV guest appearances, but they keep him out of the movies for the most part.
He has made more films than me. So he runs to the local doctor's place.
Yes, he's working as an assistant for Dr. Hertz. Is the name of the doctor here, which is, yes, our old pal Thorley Walters. Boy, he's becoming a real regular.
He's good, and I can definitely see in this performance how he was, no doubt, as Watson.
Yes.
This is very much what?
And he's wearing essentially the same getup he had in last week's movie, Dracula, Prince of Darkness, with the little white wig and the mustache.
Yeah,
quite
very
right.
True.
They just have him. His suit's a little nicer. That's about it.
I love the fact that the carriage that we see later in the movie also has the Carlsbad destinations painted on it that last week's movie had. It's like, it's the same carriage.
We just rolled right into this movie, didn't we? Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't expect people to be watching the back-to-back.
Yeah.
It was like, they'll have forgotten about that. That was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, he's working for the local doctor.
Yeah.
And he's told to put on his gloves.
Yeah.
And the doctor is doing a countdown.
He's doing a countdown. And he's like, I need a little nip of that. And he gives him a bottle of something, which he takes a couple swigs from. And I have no idea what's going on at this point. So I just think, oh, he's working for a boozy doctor.
That's all we can guess at this point.
But then he's like, quickly now, and they open this chamber, and out they pull basically a coffin.
It's like a deep freeze chamber, which I guess is just full of ice or something.
I mean, it must be, considering what year this is, whatever year it's supposed to be. 1800s.
So they pull it out, and it is a frosted over coffin-y kind of thing, and they're like, he's like, put your gloves on. He's like, you too. It's so cold.
Yeah.
So it'll tear your flesh right off. So he puts the gloves on. They open up the coffin.
Inside, Peter Cushing.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great intro, by the way.
It really is.
Like, holy shit.
And all I could think was, our boyfriend's back. And
he
he's
does
gonna
look so
be
dreamy.
Frankenstein. Yeah.
He just looks so dreamy.
I was like, ooh, I just feel better when Cushing's on screen.
Yes, indeed. He's covered with frost because he's been apparently in this refrigerator thing for an hour.
And so this leads me to go, am I missing a Frankenstein movie where he was frozen somewhere and now they're thawing him out? What is going on here?
I was also like,
because I'm going, well, Dracula just got frozen. That has nothing to do with this, though.
Yeah, no. And it has nothing to do with anything.
No, it doesn't have anything to do with that. But yeah, so they hook him up to some wires and start throwing switches and eventually shock him back to life.
Yeah, because apparently the whole thing was this is like the 19th century version of Flatliners. Apparently, Dr. Frankenstein.
I thought about that.
Apparently, using himself as an experiment, and was clinically dead.
What I love when he comes back too after they shock him, and Dr. Hertz is like, "You're alive." He's like, "Yes, I told you I would be."
I know, I love it. He's just so. Again, I do love him being a superior asshole.
Yeah,
it's
he's
great.
a little bit more like he was in those first movies in this one. Not quite to that level, but he does have an arrogance of his intelligence that I enjoy in this.
I always love that. Yeah. So yeah, he's like, well, yeah, I told you it was totally going to work. He goes, an hour. I was dead an hour. And finally I have the proof that after an hour, the soul stays with the body. This movie is very metaphysical.
As soon as he said that, I thought, what is going on?
Yeah, Frankenstein, the original novel, and of course the films that come after, there's a little bit of that quasi black magic-y metaphysics stuff, but talk of the soul is just like, it's not about life after death or resurrecting dead tissues. This is Frankenstein's mission in this is preserving the soul before it can leave the body after death.
Well, and the fact that nobody bats an eye at him talking about pulling souls out or anything like that. It's all just like, well, yes, of course.
Well, except for his assistant, Dr. Hertz, has to really, after I don't know how many months they've worked together, but constantly has to be the basics of these experiments have to be explained. It was like, maybe I'm just stupid. Please explain.
I love
again.
the way that Cushing plays it. Of like, you really don't get this.
Like,
you almost want him to say like, let me say it for you really slow.
Really slow. And this is for the audience too.
Yeah.
You are the audience.
All gather close. I'll tell you what's happening. Yes, good. No, that's it. All around the screen.
No, get your popcorn and your jujube.
There's still some empty seats up in front. Just come on. Bring it in.
Bring it in. Don't crowd. Okay. Now then.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy go nuts.
Yeah, his body died, but his soul remained, and so now he's got a window where he's like, in an hour we'll still be good. The soul will
as
still
long as
be
we
there.
can get a body within an hour of its death, then we can assume the soul will still be attached to it.
Mm-hmm. So that's part one of the experiment. Or that's part one of his plan, because there's another part to how to trap said soul, which we'll get to.
We're not there yet.
But of course, boozy McDrunkenstein, Dr. Hertz here, has to immediately be like, well, we should have a drink and celebrate. Yes, maybe a nice whiskey or something like that. And I do like
Frankenstein's like,
no, I won't drink that. But I could be inclined to have some champagne.
He's like, no, for this, we need champagne. Do you think the local bar has some? It's like, yeah, sure, why not? It's amazing in this movie, which again is not very long, how much time is spent on subjects like, do you think the local bar will have champagne?
91 minutes
Okay.
of this 91-minute movie, and it takes a hell of a long time.
Who's gonna pay for the booze?
There was a distinct period of time, maybe in the midsection of this movie, where I'm like, okay, I see where this is going. We're just not getting there, though. Like,
you pretty quickly figure out where it's going, but then it just takes a while. So Hans, our young man who is assistant to all these guys,
they send him to the local cafe to get a bottle of champagne.
Now, don't forget this very important part is that Dr. Hurt says, do you have a coat? He's like, no. He goes, well, it's cold out there. Take my coat.
Yes.
He's like, well, okay, great, thanks.
And I also Frankenstein says, can you cover this, Hertz? Because I don't have any money. And Hertz goes, I don't either. And then Frankenstein says, well, where did your money go? And Hertz points to all the equipment like, into this? So apparently Hertz paid for everything that's in here. And then Frankenstein's like, how do you not have money?
Freeloader, grifter Frankenstein. It is a new take on
I was waiting for Cushing to pull his pockets out, and like from the inside and be like, I got nothing, man. I don't know.
I'm wearing a cardboard belt. And does the whole producer's routine.
Yeah.
So they send Hans to the cafe
in Dr. Hertz's coat, which is the key to this whole thing. Who knew it? And so he goes there, and immediately when he comes in, though, he goes right into the back. Well, there's nobody in the front of the place, and he kind of sneaks into the back.
By the way, we have seen this cafe at least 3 times before.
Yes, it looked extremely familiar to me.
Curse of the Werewolf. Yeah. Yep, we've seen it there. We saw it in Brides of Dracula. Same one. It's like, wow, okay.
I know this place.
I know this place.
Yeah.
I could go in the back and hang out.
But back there,
there's no one in here. So he goes to the back, and there's the lovely young lady,
Christina, who is preparing some bread or something back there. I don't know what it is exactly she's doing. And he's very excited to see her. There's a flirtation between them, but she's afraid, no, my father will be so upset if he finds you here. We also see that half of her face is scarred, bordering into a Two-Face scenario.
It looks I don't know, it's a bad disfiguration.
It looks like a chemical burn or something like that. I don't know.
It does. With scars in it too. They made it gross, but they're
good at that. This is classic Hammer kind of makeup here.
She wears her hair long and covers that side of her face. She also walks with a limp, and one of her arms is it's usable, but it is sort of cramped up or whatever. So she clearly has some physical disabilities,
unexplained physical disabilities. We never get any story on what happened to her.
But Hans loves her. It's clear from the get-go.
Absolutely.
Legitimately. I mean,
to be fair, even with all this, she's still a pretty beautiful woman, Susan Denver.
Indeed.
Yeah, I still was like, you know what? I can 100% look past these scars, and like it's because there's all these jokes throughout the movie about how hideous she is and all this stuff. It's like, no, not really.
Yeah, not really. I'm still good to go with this.
Especially in this tiny town in the 1800s, she would still be a knockout to them.
She would be a knockout. And
especially since there's only 7 other people in town.
Because as far as we can tell, she's the only woman in town.
Yeah.
So
he's talking to her, and she talks about, oh, I don't like you working for that Mr. Frank or Baron Frankenstein. He gives me the willies. I have a bad feeling about him. No, she hasn't heard anything. So once again, there's no legend of Frankenstein in this movie. She just doesn't like his whole vibe.
Yeah, she just doesn't dig that guy.
And then this is when the owner of the cafe comes in, Cleve.
Christina's father.
Mr. Cleve.
Mr. Cleve comes in, and he's not fond of Hans.
Yeah.
Which is weird, because Hans, I mean, okay, yes, he's working for the creepy Baron, and his father was a convicted murderer.
I think that's the key, because they hold that against him this whole movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, he's clearly a nice young man who cares about his deformed daughter, who probably doesn't have too many prospects. But anyway,
because once again, he's the only age-appropriate interest in town, aside from the villainous fancy boys.
The upper class twits of the year.
Yeah.
The
1800s Clockwork Orange gang.
Yes, they are droogs. They are very fancy droogs. Mr. Cleve is very rude to Hans, basically saying, "What are you doing here?" He's like, "Well, actually, I'm here as a customer. I'm going to get some champagne for the doctor." And he's like, "Well, who's paying for it?" And he's like,
Now keep in mind,
put it on the tab."
We're about 15 minutes into this movie, and all we've talked about is who's paying for champagne and how.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And he's like, "Okay, well, what do you got?" He's like, "Well, you put it on this tab." "No, that's not going to work." He goes, "Well, all right, take this." And he gives him the coat.
Yeah. And I love that the guy, Cleve looks at the coat, he's like, "All right."
Yeah, and so he reaches for some champagne.
Well, and then I like he tries to. He's like, "Yes, okay, a coat for a bottle of champagne," and Hans goes, 12 bottles of champagne. It's like, okay, come on. How about 3? No. It's 1, man.
It's 1 bottle for this coat. Fuck you. So Hans has the bottle, and what's interesting here is that Hans doesn't immediately leave because the 3 guys come in. But what's weird about the following scenes is how long Hans just sort of stands with that bottle of champagne in the back of the crowd. He does wait to finally show his disapproval of these 3 guys for a good long while.
Let's see where they're going with this.
So into the cafe,
come the
before
fancy
Hans
boys. I did not expect these guys to be like the central villains of this movie.
No.
I thought this was going to be a one-off scene where they're assholes and we just established that Christina is a laughing stock or something like that.
Apparently not. These are our main baddies, and we did not know.
They
are rich young men,
yes.
One of whom may be the mayor's son, because he keeps saying, "My father will shut this place down, and we'll take your license away."
Which, to be fair, doesn't matter in the plot. We never see the mayor or anything like that.
No, we never see
the fancy boys.
Father.
Individually, they are known as Carl, Johann, and Anton.
Yeah.
Man, these guys suck.
They do suck. They're rich brosifs, and they come in going, "Oh, your finest wine," and blah blah blah. Great.
When they even do early on, they go, "Tell us, what's your best wine, the red or the white?" And the guy says, "The white," in my opinion. He goes, "Then we'll have the red." Yes.
That's dead on, John. Oh, then we'll take the red.
We're so evil. And then, almost immediately upon sitting down, they're like, "And where's that daughter of yours?"
Yes, here's the thing: is they go, he's like, "Well, the red it is, great." And then he pours up the glasses. He's got the tray, and they go, "No. Have Katrina bring it to us." That's her name, right?
Christina.
Or is it? It's Christina. He's like, "Have Christina bring it to us." And he's like, "She's not here." And they're like, "She's totally here." And he's like, "Well, she's got a headache." No, we want it from her.
And then it's basically like, "Carl, search the back."
So Christina comes out and she is forced to serve them. And they are just loving how awkward it is for her to move and bring the glasses over. She serves one of them a glass and it almost tumps over. It doesn't, but they're like, "Oh, watch out. Oh. They're loving this because they're cruel and awful.
These men have no redeeming qualities as humans. They're just monsters.
No, they are monsters. Truly, they are the monsters in this monster movie.
That's the thing. When they start getting killed later, I'm like, really? Does anybody have a problem with this?
It becomes a basic revenge flick at the end, and I'm on board with it.
I mean, I want to see these guys die. So,
yep. So she then takes the wine over to, I think it's Anton is the blonde one that looks like Ram Chapman.
He's the leader of the gang.
He's the leader. He's the main baddie. And this time, as she tries to put it, it doesn't go so well. Though the glass spills on him, and he's like, "You idiot!" oh, you've ruined my pants.
Yeah, and then this is about the time that Hans needs to get involved.
I know, but he literally, for 8 minutes, was just standing back there with his bottle of champagne, just going, I'll see how this plays out.
He's going, I don't care for this, but there's no reason to make a scene just yet. You know?
Oh, dear.
They haven't crossed the line yet. But then when this happens, he says, you apologize to that girl.
You apologize to her. And they're like, and who is this idiot?
No.
But they actually do know.
They know who he is because they say, oh, you're one to talk. And I wrote this down. The spawn of a murderer.
Yeah, spawn of a murderer.
And now they've really crossed the line. And it's on.
It's on-ish.
Yeah.
There's a fight between all three of the twits.
Yeah.
And Hans.
Yeah.
Who holds his own and does some smashing of things.
Mm-hmm. Tables are smashed, chairs are broken. It's a classic. And then finally, he's got to escalate the fight to Hans is the one who grabs a knife.
It's true. Hans grabs like a cheese knife, and he's like going, "Who wants some?"
First, he throws salt in their eyes, so they're all like, and then that leads him to get the knife, and then he's like, "Come on!" Now he's fully crazed, and he's like, "Come at me!"
This is where he's very over the top, and now Mr. Cleve is like, "Oh, Hans, come on, calm down." He's like going, "I'll fucking kill you." He goes,
"I'll stab you.
I'll stab you.
I'll cut you, man. I'll cut you.
I'll cut you, man."
Yeah.
And
he does.
Anton.
Well,
he doesn't cut Cleve. He
cuts Anton. He cuts Anton when Anton kind of makes a move
across the forehead.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good. There's some blood.
And this is where the cops show up.
The cops show up, and they actually do hear him tell Cleve, "Back off, man, or I'll kill you too," or whatever. It's like, oh. Ugh.
And then the cops have to wrestle the knife away from him. He's going to take on the cops for half a second.
I know he's got it. Just his blood's up.
So they take
Hans off.
Yeah. And then Frankenstein and Hurt show up, I guess, concerned about why the champagne hasn't shown up.
Yeah, I know. We're really thirsty. What happened with that champagne?
Yeah, and they talk about that he's the doctor and whatnot, and they say, "Oh, that's a nasty cut on your head. Dr. Hertz could be persuaded to stitch that up for you for a cost, of course, but normally he charges 10. We'll do it for 5."
This scene where he's like, all I could think is, "Wow, Baron Frankenstein, how far you've come." Is that here like going, "We really need the money to pay off this bar tab." This is not what I expect from Baron Frankenstein, but he's basically bargaining the doctor's skill at stitching up Anton's head for clearing their bar tab, essentially.
Yeah,
okay, great.
This Frankenstein never misses an opportunity to make a little change,
Yeah, also, he kept looking at some of the plates and things and going, "You going to finish that?"
Are you done with these potatoes?
Yeah, it's almost like that.
Oh, there's still plenty of good meat on this bone.
They do find out that Hans was taken away, and they're like, "Oh, that's no good." And the police ask Anton if he's going to press charges, and then he goes, "No."
Which presumably is what gets him out of jail, because in the next scene, Christina is in her home, staring at her own hideous face in the mirror, and then tap, tap, tap at the window. She opens it. Hans just leaps in.
Hans is ready to chat her up.
Yeah, absolutely. So he comes in the window and he's talking about that he thinks she's beautiful, and ignore those guys. They were, and she found it very romantic what he did. The defending her honor, slicing that guy across the head, saying he was going to stab her father.
Yeah. That works for most ladies. I almost always will say stuff like that on the first date.
She gets
anyone even tries to fuck with you at all, I will stab them to death. Even if it's your dad, I'll kill him.
I'll fucking stab your dad, all right?
I'll fucking stab your dad. Do you want to come in? Yes, I do.
asking if you wanted to order appetizers. I don't know. It just maybe. Well, that need to be out there. So yeah, they talk about their fathers, how his father, he's like, he was killed for being a murderer, but I only have nice memories of him. He was a nice man.
Yes, I remember he made me laugh, and it was always great.
It was real great until he brutally murdered all those people.
It was one guy, and it was like a drunken fight or something.
Yeah.
They say something.
He was not Jack the Ripper.
He was not Jack the Ripper.
Though that would have been a twist.
Been awesome.
And then she talks about her father is always so protective of her and, whatever. He keeps sending her to doctors, but she knows there's no doctor that can ever fix what's wrong with her, whatever that is.
And he's like, well, actually, I know a great doctor who probably could.
And then he says, well, I love you no matter what you look like. And then they start making out.
They do?
Well, she turns the lights out, and then they start making out. And then it cuts back to the restaurant where Frankenstein and Hertz are finishing the meal that they've now paid for with their doctor.
Yes.
And he's like, well, that was an excellent meal. Anyway, back to work. Hertz is like, I could stand for another couple drinks. His booziness disappears after these early scenes.
The booziness, but what's weird is it gets replaced by a befuddlement. The character seems to get, because he starts off fairly competent. I mean, dottery old dude-ish, but by the end of the movie, when he's in the dock in court, and he's like, wait, what am I here for? I'm like, are you okay, man?
They just pulled me off the street and put me in this court. Yeah, that scene's amazing when he's like, I don't even know what this is about. Wait, what did I testify about?
You say Hans did what now?
Oh, I've missed all the context here. Uh-oh. Yeah, that scene, that baffled me. I'm like, but no one told him what but he still has already testified.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's so
they get back to work, and then our fancy boys, not only do they assault people and harass his daughter, they then stiff the owner on the bill.
Well, it turns out they also have a standing tab, which Mr. Cleve goes, hey, you kind of owe me.
Yeah, and they're just like, and they act like assholes, and then eventually essentially they leave with a like, do you want us to keep fucking this place up, or can we just go? And he's just like, all right, fine. I'd rather you just get out of here.
Yeah,
because we're gonna just keep being the worst.
And what's hilarious to me is that a lot of this movie, as in this whole chunk and into the next little bit, it's all taking place in the same night.
Yes,
but it's really hard to tell that because of the way the lighting is.
Yeah,
because it looks, the next time we see the fancy guys and they're drunk stumbling through town, it looks like it's dawn of the next morning.
That's what I thought. I thought the implication initially was they had stayed there all night.
Right, but then no, they have more things to do that night. Some terrible things.
I know.
So, but anyway,
because they wander outside, we meanwhile we cut back to Christina's room where she
post-coital.
Yeah, and this is a story from the Shout Factory documentary that Robert Morris has about. Well, I was just fresh out of drama school. I'd never played a love scene before, and anyway, we were supposed to. I was quite nervous to take our clothes off. Susan wasn't nervous at all. In fact, she took her clothes off immediately. I was quite shocked. He's like, we did have bottoms on beneath the frame, though Susan didn't want to wear hers.
Well, from what I did read about Susan Denberg, and again, she was living fast. It was a whole different time. It was the 60s. There was a story about when she left Hollywood to go back or to go to England to start working there. One of her last things was a Frank Sinatra party that she was at where she just did a spontaneous striptease.
Wow.
I think she was very upfront about, hey, I am liberated, sensual woman, and I'm naked all the time, and I'll be in Playboy. Doesn't matter.
And from the sound of it, Robert Morris is more like, oh dear. Yes.
Oh my.
Because he also talks about the way they're laying. He's like, they had me strategically place my arm over her breast, And he's so, what I love is he's so like to cover her, to cover her nipple. He was so nervous to say nipple in the thing. Yes, I had to put my arm there, and they told me not to move. Dare not move.
This is the most suggestive we've seen yet.
It is, and
it's a brief scene, but still, you're like, oh no, she's totally topless there, and it is just obscured.
Yeah, they said don't move, and he does say films were different back then, not like today with all the nudity.
Today, all the nudity.
Yeah.
Pretty much every film, PG-13 and above.
I
full frontal nudity.
Can't go to a picture without seeing everyone's bits and bobs. He's just this like fuddy-duddy old British man in the interview. He's like,
God bless him. Yes. I really don't like him in this movie.
No,
he's not a bad actor. He's just the kind of actor where I'm like going, oh, you should be on a stage. This is not working on the camera.
So they're in bed together, and they hear taunting from the street, and our fancy boys are. Is this a thing he often sings, or is this some kind of improv genius? Because
it seemed like they were trying to imply that he is coming up with this off the cuff, and I'm impressed that he's
singing this taunting little rhyming song about her, and I am just like, do you fucking assholes have nothing better to do? You know what we'll do? It's Friday night. Let's go down to the local pub and taunt that disabled girl.
It seems like their entire night out, their entire social life has revolved around getting drunk and tormenting a woman who was born with physical deformities.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh God, you guys are terrible. But again, there's only 8 people in this town.
Right.
So
what else are we supposed to do?
They stand underneath her window, sing these horrible songs about how ugly she is and how she'll die alone in a virgin bed and whatever.
Little do they know she's just been having sex.
I know, and Hans is up. He's like,
he's getting pissed, and she goes, "They'll go away. Just
go away. Just let this. I'm used to this shit.
Yeah.
Okay."
And he's like, "I'm gonna kill them all. I'll stab them all." No, stab anybody. I get a chance to stab. I'm gonna stab. It's in my blood. He's the spawn of a murderer.
Even if I don't have a body anymore, somehow I'll get some stabbing done. Even if I'm just a voice and a decapitated head, I'm going to make sure some stabbing gets done.
So after they're done with this, we see what I guess is later this night, though it still seems like daylight when this is happening.
Yeah. Weird.
We see Cleve lock up the cafe for the night and head home. And then we see our fancy boys sneak back around to the cafe going,
yeah, it's like, where do we go now? Why don't we go back to the place we were at before? So they break into the cafe and they're going to drink their fill, I guess.
It seems like they're already pretty wasted.
Yeah, they're already wasted, but there's always more to drink.
Yeah.
Sadly, Cleve has forgotten something. He comes back.
He comes back, and they all hide. And Cleve's looking around, and he doesn't see them until, what's this? Uh-oh, a bottle gets rolled out from behind the bar. And he's like, come out, you!
I know you're there. Come out.
And they attack him and beat him mercilessly with their walking sticks. Beat him to death.
They beat him to death with their canes.
Yeah.
And then they're like, uh-oh.
We didn't. We never meant to take things this far.
And they toss that coat of Dr. Hertz on him.
Yeah. Which is all the evidence the police have for anything later in the movie. Anyway, let's cut back to the crazy experiments of Dr. Frankenstein, because what he's doing now, I don't fully understand.
No, it's weird and it's batshit insane.
He's got a device that's like has superheated rods on it.
Yes.
That he's sticking into a slab of rock.
Okay. So it's in the basement lab, and you have these metal doors, like a vault, and behind the vault is just stone.
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of the building foundation. I don't know. I don't know what type of rock this is supposed to be, or if it's a type of metallic rock. I don't know. But he has these superheated rods attached to this machine, which is very steampunkish, on rails, that he is like rolling or wheeling the machine, and the rods go into the rock, superheating it, and somehow energy is being produced. And he goes, "There, do you see?"
He says,
"I'm releasing the energy inside that stone."
That's exactly what he says. And then he goes to touch the device, and he burns his hands, which apparently is important for later in the movie. Except it's not, other than he apparently can't use his hands in the film.
Yeah. Though I was confused as to whether that was an existing thing, or, I mean, we do see it happen here.
We see him burn his. I mean, I had to just draw the thing, right? Because they make a point of showing him grab it, and then you see the burn marks on his hands. His hands are burned.
Yeah.
And then throughout the rest of the movie, he's wearing black gloves. And
we find out that all the doctoring and surgerying is being done by Dr. Hertz under the guidance of Baron Frankenstein.
I do like when he says that later. Well, they were his hands, but it was still my surgery.
Yeah.
I want it known this is Frankenstein and nobody else.
Frankenstein TM.
Yeah. And so then he uses the energy of this to create a force field?
Yes.
Because he puts this force field around a glass, pulls out a gun, and starts shooting at the glass, and it doesn't break. He goes, "See? There, an indestructible barrier."
What the fuck, movie? What the fuck?
All of this, I'm like, I have no idea what's happening in this film.
I do like the fact that Hertz is essentially, he's been working with this man for a long time, and Hertz is like, I have no idea what the fuck you just did.
Well, because he goes, "It's a shield of indestructible matter. Now we have conquered death." And I am actually with Hertz on this. I don't know how that leads to conquering death. Number one, that's an incredible invention. He's created an indestructible, shield of matter. That's amazing. That you can stop right there, man.
Yeah, you can stop right there. But he says, "We've conquered death," and then Hertz is like, "I'm sorry."
Yeah.
I how does that translate?
And this is another great Cushing being like, "Ugh, God, how are you not putting 2 and 2 together here?"
Do I have to spell this out to you? Yeah. And basically, the idea is if the soul stays with the body for a length of time, say an hour, before it goes away, if you've created this impenetrable force barrier, which if you fire a physical bullet at it and it's stopping a physical thing, yes, that's very impressive. How is that going to stop something like the soul, which is immaterial and possibly energy?
Well, because by that logic, then wouldn't the soul be trapped in a building because it can't go through cement or anything like that? Or
regardless, Frankenstein's
it's the combination of the science and the metaphysics here that really are just hand in hand in this movie with no explanation.
Anthony Hines, what was it? It was 66, 67.
I think I have an idea of what he was smoking. Yeah, I think I have a couple theories.
But Frankenstein is saying that using this force barrier, you will be able to store a soul that should have left the body. And then what you could do, and this part, I'm just like, what? He's like, then you can fix the body. Fix the body. He's like, you can fix the body and return the soul to an improved body, which extends life, and therefore I've conquered death. And you're like, what are you?
This was the point.
What's so bad?
Once this happened, I went, okay, so we're off the rails, and my mind clicked into another gear, and I'm like, all right, I'm watching this movie with a different mindset now, because this is not a Frankenstein story. No, this is just completely insane nonsense.
And it is odd, just because we've watched several of these already, where it's like, this time out, no one has heard of Frankenstein. People just think of him as this crazy, weird dude. There is no legend, and therefore he's not on the run from anything. And he doesn't mention a past experiment with reanimated corpses. So what? Why? All of this? What? This makes no fucking sense.
There's no indication of how long he's researched this, or has he been trying to perfect this. Everything is just like, yep, we're doing this now.
people do ask him, like, at various points, like police and so forth, what is it you do? And he's like, well, I'm a doctor, and I'm a doctor of this,
he calls himself a therapist
medicine,
later in the movie.
Yeah, medicine, and physics, and you're
He's like
okay,
a Marvel
great.
Universe doctor, right? Where they're all just, they can do anything.
Yes. But they also say there's lots of hints from the locals that he also dabbles in black magic, and he's like going, you would say that you're also superstitious. He goes, well, sadly, there's no university that offers a doctorate in black magic, but if they did, I'd probably have a doctorate in that too.
They straight up call him a witch later in the movie.
Yeah. Because he looks like one!
Yeah.
He's got a wart!
Yeah. I know a witch when I see one. And so, so then it cuts back to Hans is seeing Christina off because she's going to see the doctor to see if he can fix her issues. So he's like, I love you, Christina. Yes, no, I'll be right here when you get back. Nothing will have happened to me.
Have a wonderful time at the doctor.
Yeah. So she takes off in her coach, and then he walks back into town and sees a crowd of like 4 people having gathered around the cafe, and he's like, what's this?
And he does. He just goes, hey, guys, what's going on?
Yeah.
And they look at him like, oh, because somehow they know as well that he's a suspect.
You're that murderer's
son. Are you
Hans?
There
hasn't
Hans,
been a murder in town since his father's murder. So 1-to-1, it must be the spawn of the murderer.
The cops come out and go, Hans, and he's like, yeah, and they're like, get in here. And he's like, did you do that? He's like, oh my God, Mr. Cleve is dead.
Yeah. No. It's like, what about this coat? It's like, well, I did give him the coat, but and then they're just like, that's it, we're charging you with murder.
Well, the one cop it also says in court, like, well, you did say you were gonna kill him.
Yes, one cop does say that, because I just like immediately though we hard cut to them taking him out of this bar, arresting him. Hard cut to his trial, and I went, whoa.
I know.
All right, get the courthouse ready. We're gonna put him on trial right now. And immediately,
all 8 people in town, we're gonna need you at the courthouse.
Immediately, the prosecutor actually says, like father, like son, and points at him.
Yeah. It's actually a pretty cool bit of foreshortening. Like the camera is like, if this were in 3D, that guy's finger would be right in your eye.
Whoa!
Like father, like son.
Yeah, and that's basically all the evidence they have, and the statement that he said he was going to kill him. And like father, like son. Even though the judge keeps saying we can't really hold that against him.
I do like the fact that the judge in this is constantly going, you gotta give me something, man, because he's not buying it either. He's like, you didn't. But the whole thing is
won't say he was upstairs banging Christina.
Yes, he's being a gentleman and has not given them an alibi. He has no alibi. It's like, can you tell us what you were up to? And he's like, no, I can't, man. He's trying to protect her.
Which is like, man, gentlemanly ways only go so far when your life's on the line, man. Just say, I was giving it to the disfigured girl.
I would say that time and place, that would probably damn them both, and it would have been not a good thing to do. But regardless, he has no defense.
Frankenstein seems like an unscrupulous guy. Get him to give you an alibi. Jesus. Mm-hmm. Seems like he'd be like, he was with me the whole time.
You get befuddled Dr. Hertz saying how awesome Hans is and like a son he is and how good a guy he is, but then going, why am I here?
Yeah. Because they're like, did you give him that coat? I sure did. What's this about?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, I gulp.
Once again, they had the trial immediately. They just went and grabbed Hertz with no explanation and plopped him down. And then Frankenstein busts in.
Frankenstein gives character witness and is basically like...
That's where he says, as a licensed therapist.
Yeah. He goes, I think I would know if this guy was a murderer or not. And then the prosecutor's like, so you could just look at someone and tell if they're a murderer? And he goes, yes.
I love that. I love that moment. That felt very Cushing as Sherlock Holmes, actually. That, like, yes.
Well, the superiority.
Yeah.
It's just I love the superiority.
But then they say, so you're saying it's not even possible he did this, and being the man of science is, he goes, well, I mean, I suppose anything is possible. He did do it then!
Yeah, he said it's not plausible to me that he could have murdered this man. And they said, yes, you say it's not plausible. Were you saying that it's impossible? He goes, well, no, not impossible.
Yeah. And then, of course... That's
it. Hans is fucked, man. That's it.
Well, they also, they also say, we also have Anton, leader of the Fancy Boys, saying, oh, his blood was up that night. I'll tell you, he was going to kill somebody. Little do they know, he's the one who really did it. Which, to be fair, if there's ever a murder in that town, how are we not first thinking of the 3 known hooligans who go around terrorizing people?
Because they're rich.
I guess. But it seems like this whole town would know. Yeah, it just seems like this whole town would know these guys are a roaming band of monsters.
Why aren't they being chased around with torches?
So they find him guilty and sentence him to death, which also happens immediately.
It is a very fast turn of the story.
Within like 2 hours, this guy's been arrested, convicted, and sentenced to death.
We could say that maybe some days have passed because the execution is happening as Christina is coming back. She traveled somewhere to see a doctor, then came back. So that's, coach travel. And let's say she's a few days wherever she went. So this has got to be at least a week later. But it is highly unlikely and incredibly just amazing coincidence that she comes back on the day that Hans is getting chopped, and the coach is just traveling right by.
Well, we should. There's a scene before this which I love where they come back to Frankenstein's place, Hertz and Frankenstein, and Hertz is like, "Oh, terrible shame what's happened to him." And he goes, "No, don't you see?
Oh yeah,
this is our chance." And once again, he's like, "Chance for what?" And he's like, "You son of you, such an idiot. Like I have to explain everything to you."
There's a little of humanity. He's like going, well, of course it's tragic. Like we did what we could.
Obviously.
He goes, but
think about this.
There's our soul. All we got to do is get Hans's body.
Yeah. Hertz, I want you to go down to the jail and say, can we just get his body for like a half hour after they kill him?
Yeah. And then, that's confusing too, because they're like, well, go use some sort of kind of blackmail, but use your influence over someone over there at the jail and say, we want the body only for like an hour and we'll bring it right back. But later in the movie, they're like coming at him like going, where's that body? He goes, well, we can show you the body. I'm like, what the hour thing?
I don't follow it either. So Frankenstein is saying, yes, I'll transfer his soul to a new body. It's great stuff.
And then he's like, well, what body? He goes, bodies are no problem.
Bodies everywhere. We'll put the soul on ice and we'll go get ourselves a body.
With our cool, impenetrable shield, we'll have captured the soul.
It can just going anywhere, Hertz. It's impenetrable.
Jesus. You saw the thing with the rock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty crazy, right? Yeah,
that was wild. Shouldn't we just sell that? No, that's only the beginning. Listen, he's found he's made 2 incredible scientific discoveries. Number 1, definitive proof of the existence of the human soul.
Yes.
And 2, he's created an impenetrable shield of matter.
It's just like the first movie where it's like, well, dude, you just brought a dead body back to life. He's like, no, we won't be showing this off yet. I have to train him, teach him, do all this stuff. It's like right off the bat.
Frankenstein, man. Like it's never enough for him, is it? Because even if he'd done that, it would have been something else. It'll never be ready, will it, Frankenstein?
No.
He's the kind of guy who just keeps talking about the project he's tinkering with.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, that's the worst.
You got to hear about my screenplay. Ugh.
I'm on the 4th draft.
So Hans goes to the jail, or no, Hans is in his jail cell, and Hertz comes in, and does happen to have a bunch of dirt on this prison guard.
Mm-hmm.
Which I
basically saying, I gave your girlfriend an abortion, and I cleared up an STD for you. Basically, the two things he's like,
be a shame if your wife heard about any of this.
Right. So he's got the dirt on this guy, and he's going to say, "All right, I'll let you have the kid's body."
And so then they cut to they're taking Hans out to the guillotine out in the field as always. And I like that
happens
when they're driving the coach with Christine is coming back, as we said, just happens to be at this exact moment. But I like the woman that's with Christina goes, "Ooh, an execution! Hurry up! Yes. We don't want to miss this."
Which I actually think is very period specific.
Yeah, like, I've never understood that. Like
public entertainment.
That was the thing where it's like, let's go see a guy get his head cut off.
So
people were fucked up, man. At the time,
the only other woman in the movie.
Yep.
We don't know who she is. But yes, Christina's like, "Oh, well, okay, yeah, that sounds great." And then she's looking, and it's Hans.
I like,
and she's screaming,
Hans. And right before, as they're putting him in the stock, they go, "You're telling me there's no one who could help you out of this?" And here comes the woman who could. I'm just like, what? Why now?
Yeah, the judge is like, "Dude, come on, just tell me
what. Who are you doing? I know it's somebody."
If it was the Baron, I don't care, man. It's all cool.
As long as it's consensual and you two are happy, I just,
Just tell me.
Yeah.
But no, he goes to his grave, a gentleman.
Yeah. And they slice.
And he does see Christina off in the distance, right? Just like his dad had seen him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's the same thing. It's mirror imagery. This is good stuff. It's not. It actually.
This is beautiful.
There's actually really not a ton of reason to link these things. It's not like it's his son, so I don't know. I guess it's whatever. They want to do father becomes the son, but or the son becomes the father. Whatever. Then he gets his head cut off, and we see the fakest looking like mannequin head fall into a basket.
And if you thought, okay, all right, we'll get one terrible shot of a very fake mannequin head in this movie. No, you're going to get a couple more.
Yeah, get ready. The mannequin head's the real star of the movie.
Good one, which is a really cheap, gimmicky shot.
Yeah.
You get one really good sort of like freeze frame of the guy's actual head, but that's later. Okay, so yes, Hans has been decapitated.
Yeah. They collect that, and then immediately Christina doesn't want to live and throws herself off a bridge.
It is startlingly fast. This is what doesn't crack me up, but it's weird. She just came back from the doctor.
Yeah.
She doesn't even know her father's been murdered.
No.
She doesn't know what Hans was getting his head chopped off for.
Yeah.
She just sees Hans get his head chopped off and runs, finds a bridge, throws herself in the river.
Nothing in this movie is really about justice for the father.
No. No.
Why does it even matter that he killed her father? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't. Or that he's accused of killing her father. Mr. Cleve, who gives a shit?
I can only say to our listeners, if you could make this hashtag trend, which is hashtag justice for Mr. Cleve.
Please, justice for Mr. Cleve.
Justice for Mr. Cleve. Who died only that Baron Frankenstein could do something weird to his daughter.
Well, which sounds awful. But I just love, also, this just works out perfectly for Frankenstein.
Everything is working out really well.
He's got a soul and a body right now, man.
And they find her very quickly too.
They do,
and
because I think everybody saw her run into the woods, and then they heard her fall off a bridge.
This is the thing that this did crack me up, because all right, they've got Hans's body in the lab.
Yes.
Son's head, which made me think. I mean, they have the head there, or it's around, but I kept thinking, do they think the soul is just in the chest? Do they not need the head for this thing? But anyway, they get the machinery all cooking.
The idea of making the soul like a tangible thing is a really tricky matter in any story.
They have these reflective sort of like discs, like radar dishes, pointed at the body. They get the energy thing going. It's cool equipment.
It's a lot of like
it's
pew,
cool.
woo, 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 woo. You know,
and
it's great classic B sci-fi kind of stuff.
And things get lit up and heated, and the nozzles, the pointing things, like they angle it just right, and then they start glowing, which I guess indicates the soul's been captured. I was like,
oh yeah,
this is Ghostbusters tech.
When they start glowing, Cushing's like, yes, like this is worked out perfectly. And then
got that soul.
My favorite thing is when the soul is in its little chamber and it's just a glowing ball of light, and they're like, that's the soul.
There it is.
Number one.
Scorsese loved it.
Yeah, and Scorsese's like, oh, I love it. hey, Bobby, you gotta come over and watch this movie with me. All right, it's crazy. They're pulling souls out of people. Oh no, Marty. Oh no. I don't like it.
I don't know.
A little weird.
Chick's got a nice rack.
Yeah, I like that part.
I like that part.
Why'd they cut out the scenes with her in the bikini? That's all I'm saying. We could do.
Oh, by the way, did you get the impression? Well, it doesn't happen yet. There's a scene where I swear, and I looked in the literature. I think there was a European cut because there's a scene where she's taking off her gown later when her body's been, when she's like, oh my God, I've got a new body. And then of course it cuts away, and I'm like going, dude, I'm willing to bet that Susan Denberg dropped full on and was naked. But
Susan, we asked you to keep those covered.
But anyway,
I don't know anything about that. My Shout Factory only has the one cut, unlike because the Prince of Darkness had the U.S. and the U.K. cut. So I don't know if there was, it's been lost to time.
Yeah, I think so. But it just seemed like that was,
for the love of God, Susan.
I know they were doing a tease, but regardless, so they have captured the soul.
Yeah,
and almost
there it is. When we actually see the soul, I couldn't not laugh. I just thought, like, there it is. That's a soul.
What'd you expect?
I don't know. Just him, but like clear, like transparent.
Yeah. Let me out of here.
Honestly, that is kind of what I expected. It just looked like Obi-Wan, and as a Force
almost instantaneously, there's a knocking at the door. And this is the part that cracked me up: is that these poor people have brought poor Christina's body to the doctor. They're not Baron. This is the doctor's place.
Yeah.
And they're like going, and he's like, "Who is this? What is it? What have you brought me?" Like going, "Well, it's Christina. She threw herself in the river.
She drowned.
Can you help her?
Can you do anything for her?" Is what they said. I had to pause the movie. I was laughing so hard. Is there anything you can do for her?
He's like, no, she's fucking dead.
But then, of course, Frankenstein's like, well, there might be something we can do. Just bring her in here.
Like, from the back room's like, hold on.
Well, I also like there's a knock at the door just as they're moving Hans's body out, and they're like, quick, hide it. Who is it?
Oh, that's just a buffet table.
Yeah. It did seem like it was about to turn into a farcical bit here. No, that's not a dead body. I don't know what you're talking about.
Frankenstein's like, no, we'll see what we could possibly do. Sure, bring her on in.
Bring her in here and then just leave her. I like that they drop her into and they're like, all right, we'll check back later, Doc. Bye, and they all leave.
The idea that they are able to, when they brought back Hans's body, and it's in a coffin. I was like, that coffin looks so light. And then it's old dude and Peter Cushing on their own, and they go, let's take this upstairs. And I'm like, oh, what the hell are you guys doing? That's I don't know, 180, 195 pound guy in a coffin. And they're just like, yeah, let's go.
And then they're like, this is perfect. And then I just cut to, they've done it. We don't even see this go down.
I think this is where we would have seen the things we see in the publicity photos, the band bikini and so forth. But regardless, yes, they have just done it.
Yeah.
And they are unwrapping the face.
Yeah.
This is a classic Frankenstein thing. So the whole concept here is just bats. It's not enough that they have a captured soul and they're going to put it in a body.
Yeah.
And all I think was, why is her soul still in it? Unless they found drowned Christina within an hour. Somehow got her to the doctor within an hour.
Because it's the two souls are. They're not even fighting for the control of the body. They're just sort of existing within here as a singular creature of vengeance.
But also, even if the soul was still in Christina's body, they've clearly spent possibly weeks or months working on a dead body and corrected all of its faults through plastic surgery. 19th century plastic surgery. And this whole thing of this cracked me up too, is that they unwrap the head first. They're about to go to the face. It goes, see, the hair color changed.
Yeah.
Just as I thought it would. You're like, oh no.
Why would that happen? What led to that?
Apparently when you correct the congenital physical defaults, it makes people blonde.
See, she's a blonde now. And those blondes have more fun, Hurts. Anyway, she's a hottie now.
She's now a full hottie with a man's soul in her.
I don't even... And of course, I'm going, obviously, she's going to kill the fancy boys. That's where this is going.
Right. But I also, that's what I'm saying, where they missed the boat on this. It would be interesting to take it down the line of Hans being aware, and he's inside of the physical form of the woman he loved, and it would be a man now physically embodying in a woman's body. There are interesting things you can do with this psychological
Stop groping your own boobs. God.
I expected the last 30 minutes of this film to be a woman groping her own boobs.
It does seem like it seems kind of obvious to a certain extent.
But instead what happens is perfect new Christina awakens and basically says, "Who am I?"
Immediately says, "Who am I?" And Frankenstein's like, "Don't tell her." And then he's running tests on her, having her stand on one leg and going like, "Now do you feel any pain? No? Good." And then she said, Dr. Hertz is alone with her a lot because Frankenstein's like, "I'm done with her for now. You take her to bed," or whatever. And she goes, "Can I see him? Can I have a mirror?" And Hertz goes, "Why?" She's like, "I want to see what I look like. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I look like. I'd like to see who I am." And so he gives her a mirror. She looks in the mirror, and I thought she was going to say like, "My God, I'm beautiful," or something like that. No, she just goes, she puts the mirror down and goes, "Who am I?"
Yeah, okay. Fun is fun, but who the fuck am I? We've all had a fun time with the standing tests and the hopping on one leg, but can we get back to the central question? Who the fuck am I?
When she does this, I just have in my notes, she really doesn't know who she is. They're making this very clear. And then it cuts to Hertz has dressed her up all fancy in a dress and a hat, and he goes, and Frankenstein's like, "What are you doing?" And Hertz says, "I'm taking her into town." Frankenstein's like, "You will do no such thing."
Yeah, it's like, the weather's nice. We should go for a walk. And he's like, "You're not going anywhere."
Yeah. And this is like, so is Frankenstein meant to be sinister here? No.
I don't think he's sinister.
He's never really sinister in this movie, actually.
No, he's not. Hertz is more, he's being paternal and caring. And Frankenstein is still the scientist first. But by the end of the movie, they do kind of a shift where he actually is very concerned, like, "Oh no, I want to make sure she's okay, and I know what she's doing." But so he becomes a little bit more human by the end. But even that, whatever.
And so then,
but he's not evil.
No, which is a bummer.
And neither is she.
No. The only evil people in this movie are the fancy boys.
Yeah, the upper class twits.
So then Hertz takes her back upstairs. He's like, "Well, I'm sorry, he wouldn't let you out. There's some things you should know about him." And he tells her about what kind of man Frankenstein is, still won't tell her who she is. I mean, they're just torturing this woman, right?
Yeah, it's like, this is all very interesting. Who am I?
So he's like, "Yeah, you don't know. He's capable of amazing things." And so then they drive her out, in a coach, out to the field and show her the guillotine. And they're like,
this is like, this is Frankenstein okayed this. He's with her and he's like going, hey, look over there.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That doing anything for you?
And she's like,
And she says, Papa! And then passes out. He's like,
says Papa.
And I think, I can't remember if it's her. One of them.
Weirdly, she says Papa, but then she immediately says, Papa don't take no mess, and starts doing an entire James Brown song. And then she talks about Papa's new bag.
It's
I was very confused.
I was going to, Papa, can you hear me? That's the reference I was going to.
Said, Papa don't preach.
Yeah.
I'm in trouble deep.
Yep.
And she's keeping the baby. She's made up her mind.
I think we've done all of the jokes that can be there. We've officially done all the references.
I'm really happy that you went to Yentl.
I will always go to Yentl. I will always go to Streisand.
Default to Yentl all the time.
I will always go to Patinkin if there's a Patinkin movie involved.
Mandy Patinkin.
I mean, I do love Patinkin. He's a treasure.
I unironically love Mandy Patinkin.
He's the best. So they talk about. They have this argument about like, well, that proves that she said Papa, his soul's in there, and they're like, I think it's Frankenstein's like, well, it's in there sometimes.
Yeah, that was such a strange line. Like, it's in there sometimes, and at this point in the movie, before we've heard Hans's voice, I was like, what are they? What?
Yeah,
because my assumption was Christina's gone.
That was what I thought. So I thought, so then no one's in there sometimes.
Yeah, it's like, see, just stare into space for long periods.
See that blank stare? There's no soul in there right now.
It's my turn to feed her the strained peas.
And then on that same thought, where is the soul when it's not in her? Was my next thought. Like, it's just wandering around.
Well, we find out later it is sort of a shared a roomie situation.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So they talk about, and this is the first time Hertz is going, maybe this wasn't a good idea. Any of this.
I'm starting to get kind of tampering in God's domain feelings. I have a feeling we shouldn't have done this.
So then we have Anton, leader of the Fancy Boys. He's out for a jaunt, and he walks by the cafe where he somewhat recently murdered a man. And he hears Hans's voice saying, Anton.
He's like, what?
What? Hans? But that's not
Hans?
That's not possible. And then, of course, he then sees Christina in her new hottie form. Doesn't recognize her.
Of course not.
And immediately he's like, whatever, I heard the voice of a ghost, but check out the new hottie in town.
Yeah, he gets over I just heard the voice of a dead man pretty quickly because, hey, who's this over here? And she's like, hey, big boy, looking for a date?
Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, there's a scene before this where he continues to freak out. Never mind. Because he goes into a different cafe or pub or something, and where the other Fancy Boys are, and he's like, hey, yes, fellas, let's have some wine. I definitely didn't just hear a ghost. Absolutely not. No. Everything's cool. And they're like, I don't know, you're acting kind of weird. It's like, yeah, let's order some more drinks. Everything's fine. And eventually they leave. Because they're like, you're being weird, man. And then he's like, oh, no, don't go. And he spills his wine. And he offers to show the proprietor of this pub a card trick, and he drops his cards, and he sees the ace of spades is face up, and he's like, ah! Which, okay, am I dumb? Did I miss something? What does that mean?
No, when that happened, I had two thoughts. One was, this refers to something that got cut, or is this a universal meaning? Like, if you see the ace of spades, it's about your death or something?
That's what I thought. Like, I thought, have I missed out from something from urban legend or something like that? No. It's
weird, though.
I couldn't figure that out. But because they make a point, they zoom in on the ace of spades, and then back to him. He's like, ah!
It's not a different cafe. It's the same cafe that now has a new owner.
That happened pretty fast, man. It looked the same. I wasn't sure if they were trying to pass off the same set as a different place.
No, it was the same place, but with the new owner, who is not amused and doesn't give a shit about card tricks.
No, and then
I mean, the look the guy gets, I'm just like,
yeah,
don't fuck with me. Whatever.
Then when this dude spills his wine, he's like, "That's it, get out, man.
That's it. Get the fuck out of here."
So this is when he goes outside and sees Christina.
Hashtag justice for Mr. Cleve.
Yeah, I mean, this cafe just gets handed to somebody else. It's like this guy never existed.
So he sees Christina looking awful nice.
And he likes what he sees.
Seen her around before.
No.
And he's like, who is this?
Yeah, haven't seen you around these parts.
And she basically says, let's get it on.
Yeah. How about we go up to that room where that girl used to live? And he's like, no, not there. Anywhere but there. And then she goes, then where? And he's like, well, okay, I guess there.
Yeah, she goes, I know of an empty room near here.
Yeah.
Where we can go. And then he figures that he's like, no, not there. And she's like, well, then where? And he's like, all right, you got me. Can't take you back to my place. Dad'll find out. So
I'm not supposed to be alone in my room with girls.
Christina's empty, Cleve's empty place.
Mm-hmm. And they go upstairs and he goes, oh, I used to know the girl who lived here. She was ugly, I'll tell you that. Yeah. Which, by the way, even if she was ugly, you're trying to get it on with a lady, maybe just trashing the looks of another woman. That's not a great look on anybody.
She wasn't hot like you.
Yeah. No, this woman was hideous, and I used to harass her day in and day out about it. Fact, anyway.
Life's been pretty empty because that's all I did. Me and my friends get drunk, harass this lady.
We're kind of depressed because she eventually killed herself. Anyway, do you still want to do me?
We've been going out to the fields and yelling at random cows and sheep, just telling them how ugly they are. Anyway, it's not the same.
It's not the same. They don't seem to die a little inside each time. I get the sense they don't even understand us. You
are the ugliest cow I've ever seen. What do you say to that? That's all you ever say.
Damn, I've been bested. You win again, cow.
With the bon mots. Well, I can't argue with that.
Oh man, this would have been a better movie. Anton's descent into madness with the cow. Just out there all day, talking to those cows.
He also would have been improvising very clever lyrics to a song about how ugly those cows are. Oh my god. Anyway.
Oh, Betsy Lou, no one wants to touch you.
Lying down in your virgin hay. I think Anton deserves to be killed and soon. Does he get killed, John?
Yes, he does. And so, yeah, she goes, I'm just going to go get something from the back, or I'm going to go undress or something. He's like, oh, and he's just out there going, yes, this girl, oof, am I right? And then eventually he's like, young lady, do you need some help back there or something? And he starts walking back there. And let's see. He hears Hans's voice again. And he's saying, "Kill him, kill him," and then it just cuts to the guillotine falling. Which I will say this: little bummed we don't really get to see these guys get it.
Well, no, we really don't see them get it.
No.
Though I like the knife wielding that she does a little later on, but we don't.
That one actually is the one we see the most. I also don't mind the cleaver to the wood chopping. This random inserting of the guillotine doesn't even match action or anything, though.
No, it doesn't.
It just cuts to it, and I'm like, I guess he's dead.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see Anton get.
We don't
really
even know
dead.
how he's killed. Like, we don't see her pick up a blade or anything. The other guys, we know she gets the guy with the knife at the end, and she gets the guy with the cleaver. Once again, I mean, I'm always looking for gore. But even if you want to do it, like, stylistically like this, do something. Have her swing something or something, anything to be. Because I just thought, well, why'd we cut to we just cut to a guillotine, which has no context to anything even.
John, calm down.
I'm
Okay?
furious, man.
I just got 5 emails from our listeners, and they're worried about you. It's time for an intervention.
Just here alone in my apartment steaming about this movie from 1967. What the hell? That doesn't even correspond to anything.
This email says, has John checked his blood pressure lately? I
haven't, and I won't. Just turning red, screaming about
That's for weak people. Weak people. So
then we cut to the 2 surviving fancy boys who now sit in the cafe going, Jesus, who would have wanted to kill Anton? Yeah, just
he's beloved of everybody.
And then finally one of them, I don't remember which one because they're all the same guy basically, just goes, you don't think this is retribution for what we did? And the other guy's like, shut up. No.
Yeah. It's like, well, we did kill a guy, and that led to another guy being executed.
Which then led to that woman killing herself, so... No, I'm sure that has nothing to do with it. And so then...
one of them leaves.
Yeah, the guy who says shut up leaves, and Christina shows up in the bar, and she's like, oh, I've just missed my coach, and it was the last one out of town. I guess I'll have to stay here. And this is what is it? This is Carl, who says, well, I'll wait with you. Once again, immediately from worried about retribution to hey.
Now, this is what cracks me about this cafe. Not only is it always empty, unless it's the upper class twits. The landlord seems to never be around, even if it's not Mr. Cleve, because it's now under new ownership. But she's like, well, I know this place. I'm going to go in the back and get us some stuff.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. She gets the stain on the dress.
Yeah, because he goes, let me pour you some, because they go like, landlord or whatever. Oh, I guess he's not here. Anyway, I'll pour you some wine. And
he's not here.
He spills wine on her dress, and she goes, oh, no, I'll have to wash this right now.
Right now.
And he goes, oh, really? She's like, yeah, it'll take a second. I'll just go. You have more wine. I'll be in the back washing my dress.
Yeah.
And so
as if he's not gonna follow her.
Right. So he kind of half goes for some more wine. Then he's going, shit, that means she's naked back there. That hits him. Wait a minute. She just took off her dress. And our friend in the audience is going, oh yeah, let's go back there.
You better. Wine stains, they don't come out easy. You should probably take it all off.
Yeah, that could seep through. You better take the underwear off too.
Yeah, wine could have gotten on everything. Totally naked. So he goes back there and sees that she's not naked.
Right.
What's more, she's holding a cleaver,
giant cleaver. And so she's holding the cleaver, and once again he hears Hans's voice saying, kill him, kill him. And he's like, I love that they all instantly recognize the voice of Hans. They're like, yeah, that's Hans.
Again, there are only 8 people in this film, so
I know everyone's voice in this town.
Like, geez, it's got to be Hans, but he's dead.
So she swings the cleaver, and then it cuts to a wooden log being cut in half by an axe. That's not bad. That I like.
Not bad. Yes.
Because once again, I just wanted the guillotine to match some kind of action and then also be a scene rather than just a random cut to a guillotine falling.
And it's her in the doctor's place chopping wood.
Yeah, because Hertz comes in and he's like, what? Why are you chopping wood?
And he's like, and she's like, well, you're going to need this for the fire and for the oven. And he's like, or the stove. And he's like, no, but that's not what a woman does.
Yeah.
A man does that. And I was like, oh, there's a little bit of what I was hoping for.
It needed to be. We really needed. Number one, they needed to put the soul in the body way earlier in the film because there's 10 minutes left of the movie where we are right now.
And there should have been awareness, but there's no awareness. It's just these little glimpses. But regardless,
so the police find Hans's body in the cafe, they find Carl's body in the cafe, which is hacked apart, and then Hans is written in blood on the floor next to him.
Yeah.
I wonder what this is about.
And the third and last upper class twit comes in, sees it, he's like,
Yeah, I better get out of town right now.
yeah.
And I do. This is where one of the police are talking. They're like, he must be back from the grave.
This was again another. I mean, Anthony Hines as a writer. I'm just like, there's some weirdness in here that I actually respect. Just how batshit and weirdly imaginative parts of this are, but this is just terrible writing. Where automatically, yes, it's the 19th century, but you have cops going, well, clearly he's back from the grave.
Well, and then you want to talk about, I want to figure out this jump, because then he goes, no, someone brought him back from the grave. Let's go talk to Frankenstein.
They immediately somehow intuit that if there is somebody back from the grave, instead of this, all right, rationally, you'd say this is maybe a revenge killing.
Yeah.
Because of maybe Hans was set up.
Who knows Hans? Who would have had the motive to want these people dead for what they did to him?
Instead, we jump to, he's back in the grave. No, someone brought him back from the grave. It must be that weird Baron. Holy hell. That happens within as fast as I just said it. That's how quickly.
Instantly. This is Anthony Hines writing we've seen before, where he's like, I just got to finish this movie, man.
I just got to finish. I got to get to the thing.
Yeah, we just got to get these villagers to Frankenstein so we can set up the climax. That's all we have to do, man. It doesn't matter how we get there.
Small crowd, as we mentioned.
Yeah.
All
knocking at the door. They show up at Frankenstein's. I love they open up and there's a bunch of people with, well, not a bunch of people, but presumably we're supposed to think it's a bunch of people with pitchforks and whatnot, because they're the angry villagers in the Frankenstein movie. And Frankenstein's just like, ugh, what is this about? I was doing my work.
Yeah, and they're like, what is your work, Mr. Frankenstein, Baron Frankenstein?
I'm in stocks and bonds. Yes.
I'm watching the ticker.
Yeah.
I'm seeing the latest prices come in from the stock exchange. This is just.
And then they're saying, yes, he's been doing black magic. And they said, are you calling me a witch? And they talk about, like, well, you know what happens to witches. And I do.
Yes, you want to burn me?
That's one of my favorite lines in this movie. Cushing going, so you're going to burn me?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, because it's almost got an air of, like, I'd like to see you try.
Yeah, boy. Love me some Cushing.
And he says, well, there's one easy way to solve this. Let's go dig up Hans's body. If the body's there, then I didn't do shit.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they go to the grave. This is all happening pretty damn quick, but they go to the graveyard.
Seriously, we're like final 8 minutes of the movie at this point.
They dig up the coffin. They say the bolts have been loosened on it. They open it up, and Hans's body is in there, but not his head.
Yeah. Well, where's the head, Frankenstein?
Immediate cut to Hans's head.
Yeah.
On the post of Christina's bed.
Yeah. And she's like,
this is
yes,
good looking shot, because the head is actually the actor's head in a freeze frame.
Yeah.
So it's not moving clearly. And then with they've done a little doctoring, so you have like a severed thing.
Yeah.
But then when they zoom around and Christina's talking to it, it is that horrible, fake, waxy looking nothing.
Yeah. I'll say this. Shout Factory did a beautiful job restoring the movie, and it did no favors to any of the scenes with the head. This 4K scan of Frankenstein created woman makes this look even uglier.
She is just talking to it, and yes, she's going, yes, I understand. Yeah. Absolutely.
There's one more to kill. Will you kill him?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I'm down for that. Yeah. I'm on to that shit.
So it says, go kill him then. Cut to a frantic Johann throwing everything he owns into a suitcase going, I gotta fucking get out of town, man. I'm next. Yeah.
Also, he was late for a recording session with his buddies, Lonely Island. So
what were those lyrics again? I'm on a boat. Yeah, got it.
I like sports.
Yeah.
So he runs out and grabs a coach.
Yeah.
And coach, it's already on the move.
Yeah, and of course Christina's in it going, hello. cut back
That's amazing planning on the part of Hans and Christina that they would know exactly what coach he would be. Like, what? How did they know?
There has to just be the one coach at a town, right? And she's just been writing it. She's just been sitting at waiting for somebody.
She does pay him off, because the whole stopping at at the point where they stop is clearly a setup.
Yeah,
because she paid the guy off. Like, thanks for pretending that you threw a wheel or what the fuck it is.
A horse lost a shoe is what he says.
Right. So,
so then Frankenstein and Hertz are looking around, going, well, "Where did that girl of ours get to? We seem to have misplaced her." So they're running around and they can't find her, and Frankenstein's like, "Oh, I know what this is all about. She's obviously murdering the people responsible for Hans's death because it's his soul back from the grave." It's like he's put it all together at this point. And of course, at this exact moment is when the cops show up to arrest him.
Yep.
For what? I don't know.
Well, the head was missing.
Yeah, I get witchcraft. Were we back to witchcraft at this point?
I don't remember.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter. They arrest him, and then he says, "No, look, you can't hold me. I'm the only one who can stop the murders. I know what's going on."
Mm-hmm. And he makes an escape.
He does make an escape, and this is all cutting back. This sequence is cutting back and forth between this and Christina in the coach with Johann, who's like, "Your face looks familiar. I know you from somewhere."
And she goes, "You do know me, man. It'll be a game. We'll see how long it takes you to remember." And
then yes, this is when Frankenstein just basically pulls a "look over there, everybody," and runs up a flight of stairs.
Runs up a flight of stairs, runs to a window, ducks out the window, does a Fall Guy Colt Seavers leap across.
I know. I really enjoyed
roof to roof.
I really enjoyed Baron Victor Frankenstein, action hero, when he comes in here. So yeah, he's leaping across roofs. He's sliding down roofs onto the ground. And then he gets onto a coach, and we get to see what has now become my favorite thing in Hammer movies: desperate coach driving acting from Peter Cushing.
It is great.
This is the second time we've seen it where he's like, "Come on, yes, I gotta get there."
He sells it.
He does, man. He does.
Desperate escape,
and he's just on a soundstage with in a coach, just as they're wiggling it back and forth. He's going, "Yeah, come on."
Yeah, it is the best.
But damn it if he's not selling the desperation of it.
But when they cut back to the other coach, it has stopped because, the horse threw a shoe, and it's like, okay. And she's like, well, we can just go over there and wait. Yeah. I've got food. We can have a picnic.
We can have a little picnic. Oh, wait. Don't let me forget my hat box. And I'm like, yeah, his head's in that hat box. So then...
Yeah. Anyone who's seen Barton Fink knows what's going on right there. Anyone who's seen Seven knows what's in the box.
Yeah.
What's in the...
It's always a head.
Weirdly, in this one, it actually turns out to be Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
I thought that was strange. She wasn't even born yet, and somehow it was clearly Gwyneth Paltrow. They
replaced Hans's head with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah. We're trying to capture that Seven audience.
Hashtag the Paltrow cut. Release the Paltrow cut.
Now see, that movie made a smart decision in not actually showing the head.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a greght movie.
Let's not get into that.
Yeah. So now, she's taken, and she finally Frankenstein arrives at the coach, and he's like, "What? Where'd they go?" And he's running around the woods looking for them, and they're having this picnic, and he's laying his head in her lap. And he's got his eyes closed, Johann, and he's like, "Oh, this day couldn't be better." I've completely forgot the fact that there's a murderer out to get me.
Yeah, give us a kiss. And she's like, "Oh, of course." Gives him a little kiss.
Yeah. Then raises the knife she has in her hand and starts to bring it down, and you hear a scream as it cuts to Cushing, who stops in his tracks. And then I do like it cuts back to her stabbing this guy repeatedly with the bloody blade.
Yeah, it's not showing you
this.
The impact.
This is what I'm looking for, though, out of Hammer.
But this is again, it's where they're like going, no, it would be, of course, proper to imply, but instead we're going to show her going to town.
Yeah.
She is stabbing, and I'm like, yes.
Killing this dude, all kinds of dead.
She kills him more dead than you'll ever know.
Mm-hmm. And then by the time...
But she had to, because there was a head in a box telling her she had to.
Well, because by the time Frankenstein actually finds her, this guy is dead with a capital D, and she's talking to the head that she's holding. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yes. And it's like, well, she goes, yes, I know what to do. I understand. And he's like, you're free. You can rest now, Christina. You can rest in peace.
You can rest in peace.
And then as soon as she sees Frankenstein, she drops the head and books it out of there. Yeah. Oh, shit.
Oh, it's Daddy.
Yeah. And so he chases her for a little bit, and eventually they get to a cliff's edge overlooking the ocean.
And he's like, "No, Christina, you don't have to do that." And
I know you didn't kill those men. All right, I have to tell you who you are. She goes, "I know, and I know what I have to do." And then she just jumps in the ocean.
The end.
Yeah, and then Cushing's like, "Oh no!" End of movie.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah.
I didn't even create a woman.
Yeah.
77 minutes of this, and I created not a single woman.
I created no one in this movie. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah, he actually does have a post-credit scene where he goes, "Sorry, I know what you were expecting, and I'm so sorry. I created no one."
Yeah, don't worry. We'll do better next time. Next Frankenstein movie is going to be better.
We're workshopping the next one. It looks good. It looks good.
I hear I must be destroyed in it. Yes, that will be the title. So, there's something about a monster from hell coming up. That should be good. That'll be good, right? Sure to be a winner. Spoiler alert, it's not.
So gird your loins, listeners. Yeah. We're hitting a... Well, next week's going to be awful. I'm sorry. Next week is awful.
Yeah.
In advance.
Yeah.
It's one of the worst.
So, do we recommend Frankenstein Created Woman?
I do.
I once again do it with the caveat of, like, you have to go in with the knowledge that this movie is crazy. It's not good, it's crazy, but it is entertaining. It is highly watchable from that standpoint of, like, wait, what?
This is not a good film.
Right.
This is not a good Frankenstein story.
No, it's actually the worst thing it is a Frankenstein movie.
Right. But it's so fucking batshit weird.
Yeah.
That I can't help but recommend.
No, it's an oddity.
Cushing's in it.
Yeah, Cushing's amazing, as always. I wish he was in this movie a lot more.
And involved, perhaps because Terrence Fisher was back than the last time he was Baron Frankenstein. So yeah, I do recommend it.
Yep. Yeah,
I mean, watch it once, cross it off your list. You never have to watch it again.
Yeah, no, this is not a classic, but I do recommend it as an oddity, really.
Yeah, and also for you Susan Denberg completists out there. It's kind of sad to say you could be a Susan Denberg completist and watch your entire oeuvre in an afternoon.
Yeah, it is. It is not much. Well, next week on the show, we're going back to our beloved Mummy franchise, and we're talking about 1967's The Mummy's Shroud. Finally, right?
Yeah.
Yet another mummy coming our way.
Yet another one.
Third mummy. Third different
three
mummy.
of four. We'll have one more after that. Yeah. Luckily, not sequentially. Luckily,
right.
There'll be a buffer.
We can't handle two mummy movies in a row. Good God.
We did that with Universal. That was rough.
Oh man, some of those runs we got into. I don't think we actually have much of a run for any character in a row here. I think we have two Dracula movies back to back at one point, and that's it.
Yeah. Though I will say there's lots of vampire movie crossover where we'll be bouncing between Dracula and lesbian vampires.
We have two lesbian vampire movies in a row, actually. We do have The Vampire Lovers and Lust for a Vampire are back to back.
All right. I'm down for that.
Before a mummy movie buffers us before the third one.
Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, the one I remember from kid.
Blood from the Mummy's Tomb buffers us between Lust for a Vampire and Twins of Evil. So,
but oh boy, but next week, yeah, we'll see. I could be wrong, but pretty much everything I've read,
based on anything I've seen about any of these mummy movies, I have a feeling it's not going to be good.
They are pretty unanimous in saying this is the worst of the mummies, and possibly one of the worst that Hammer did. So that's saying something. We will see.
At a brisk 90 minutes. We'll see how long 90 minutes can feel next week. As for the Mummy Shroud. But yeah, that's going to wrap up this episode of Campbell and Jones Meet the Monsters. I'm John Campbell.
I'm Brendan Jones.
And remember, there are such things as monsters.
Only if you're looking for bandage bikinis, look elsewhere, because they ain't here.